Hello and welcome back to another episode of With Him on Zoom. I'm Hamish Gray from Voice Magazine, and today I'm joined by Beatrix Livesay-Stephens, Senior Committee Member and Accessibility Coordinator, which is a festival aimed towards looking at unconventional forms of expression and has brought a lot of really exciting names together. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that and a bit about her role itself. So, Bea, it's lovely to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, I am doing well, thank you.
Great. So first question, it's standard one. Just a little bit about your background and your role within Wayword.
So I am a linguistic student, and I originally applied for an internship at the Word Centre for Creative Writing at the uni. Tons of people applied, and I wasn't successful to get the internship. But then Dr. Helen Lynch asked the 10 runners-up to be involved in the creation of the festival. And it was a great chance. It was amazing to be able to get involved with something like that. And now this is my second year on the committee, but what happened this year is I was part of the selection team for the new committee coming in. So I've kind of stepped back with organizing like what's happening with the festival or who's attending, but I also coordinate things like access requirements such as BSL and captioning.
Right, brilliant. And just for those who may not know, could you talk a bit about what the premise of Wayword Festival is?
Yeah, so Wayword is a cross arts festival. A lot of our stuff is the regular like poetry, prose, authors coming to discuss writing, but we try and give that a kind of angle that hasn't been seen before. So we've got people coming who, for example, are medics and they are doing creative writing, and we have people who work in hospice care talking about writing about death, for example. We've got what else? We've got world building through a poetry lens, which is one of the events I came up with at actually, because when a lot of people think about building a world, it's very often through a fantasy novel kind of lens or through prose. So I thought that getting someone to talk about it in a poetry context would be great.
And how's it felt being able to, take these artistic forms that you've had experience with before, like the world building, and be able to like present it in a much more general context?
It's really difficult to get to grips with it first, because you're like, okay, I have this idea for this event and it's hopefully going to be cool, but how do I pitch it correctly, or like will I get shot down or something like that? And then you realize like the point of it is that your ideas are good and they're gonna be like workshopped maybe, or you can like come up with something similar and stuff like that. And I remember, I think you were in one of the caucuses actually that we had this year, where we got like lots of students together and said, okay, what do you want to see from the festival? And I remember world building being talked about quite a lot, and also a BSL workshop, because last year we had a performance interpreter speak about interpreting, and all of our events were interpreted. But this year, I'm really happy that we have a workshop about teaching BSL run by a deaf person. So that's really good, and I'm really glad that that's come to fruition within the festival.
Brilliant, nice. And so you have felt that the process of making the festival is very open towards bring what your ideas, even if you yourself would have a doubt towards their like a general appeal. Because it's a good environment for just being able to bring your ideas to the table.
yeah, it's a really good place to just throw something out, and then someone else in the committee would be like, yeah, I like that idea. I mean, that's obviously something we did very early on in the process, because you can't get to like April or May and then still be saying, oh, should we invite Val McDermott or should we invite this other person? Like that's much too late. There's so much that has to be done months before the festival goes ahead, and even then you are scrambling to get something into place like a few days before the festival. But yeah, the main thing like I would say to people who are pitching ideas for a festival, if you're in the same kind of situation as I am, is like don't think to yourself, oh, this is a bad idea, because it very likely is a good one. And the most like the most annoying thing about like doing that kind of thing in the festival is if someone is saying, oh, this is this idea but it's not very good. It's much better if someone honestly does have a think about it and says, okay, this is what I want. Maybe people don't want this, but this is what I think would be genuinely a great thing to have at the festival. Because if you do think about it a lot and you are confident with what you're pitching, then that is and that just makes the festival much better if you have that kind of solid base.
So go forward with confidence, and people will have confidence in your idea.
Go forward with confidence, and also just think massive, think big, think you have a festival at your feet, ready to like be ready as this like blank canvas for you to have a great idea. Think about something no one's ever thought of before, and say like, yeah, no one's thought about this before, so it could be bad, and maybe if I pitch it, people won't like it, but I think it's actually great, and this is a new thing. And that's what Wayward is all about. It's about new ideas. It's about unconventional forms of expression. So that means ideas that people may not have thought about before, or mediums that people don't normally work with. So one of the first events in the festival actually is the Love Wall, which is an online thing and in person. So we've got this wall, and people can come up to it and use I think like spray paint and anything else to illustrate what love means to them. I think that's very unconventional, especially within the context of a festival that is kind of academic. So I want Wayward to be accessible, and for tons of people to like come to it who don't have anything to do with academia. But I do think that Wayward is, in some senses, an academic festival, and I really like the idea that all these forms of expression are equally like allowed to be there. It's not that street art is inherently inferior to writing prose, for example.
And what would you say your goals are, towards bringing these unconventional expressions forward? What's your aim with that? What would you like to represent?
So my aim with that is mostly like I mean, firstly, for people to come to the festival and not come away from it thinking, oh, that wasn't for me. I didn't belong there. I want people to feel like they belong at the festival, because they do belong at the festival. Anyone can come. I hope everyone like finds something there that they like, which like that was one of the goals of the festival actually, because although it's youth-led, student-led, I really hope that people who used to enjoy the old word, like the old word festival, enjoy what we've got here.
Great. Hi, and so quite a tough question, because like I've checked, you've got so like a very wide range of diverse events, and a lot of them are very interesting. But personally, what would you say are some of the events or people you're most excited about showcasing?
So what I'm really looking forward to, and one that I think has definitely been our most popular event so far, judging from signups, is Decolonizing the Imagination by Layla Abu-Layla, who I think was at the Word Festival last year too. And her event is about looking at decolonization through the lens of creativity and through the lens of writing. And I think like that got really popular on Instagram for some reason, and it completely blew up. And she has like twice as many signups right now or something, or it was the case last week. So I'm really excited to see how that turns up and whether there are like 100 people in the Zoom room at that point.
I know I'd personally be very excited to check that out. And well, talking about unconventional expression, so obviously these are forms of expression that aren't necessarily in the mainstream. What do you think could be done to either make them part of the mainstream, or do you even think that's a desirable goal?
I was thinking a lot about this question, and I kind of like how you phrased it, because in a way, like making something mainstream is kind of what I've been talking about with people recognizing that different forms of expression are just as worthy of merit, but maybe in different ways. So street art, poetry, prose, fan fiction, what else? Music, and like as an extension of that, bothy ballads, which we're having a workshop on. Like there are so many different lenses through which like you can view stuff, like a Gaelic songwriting workshop or a bothy ballad workshop, or like what else, like life writing. We have so much going on, and I want people to know that all these forms of expression are like none of them are better than others, and they all have so many different merits to them.
More towards showing that these have merit rather than necessarily doing something like making them mainstream, or just giving them a platform to be explored. That's a really good goal. And well, in terms of them as forms of expression, what do you think gravitates people towards employing these to express themselves?
What gravitates people to employing these to express themselves? That's a good question. Definitely like how easy it is to get involved. So for example, with street art, that can cost a lot of money. So like you have to buy the spray paint, and it's really expensive. So maybe it's less likely that a lot of people are going to take up using street art. But maybe maybe someone says to themselves like, oh, I'm a terrible writer, I can't write prose or whatever, and then they come to this bothy ballad workshop. I keep bringing that up, and says, oh, this is really fun. I actually play I play this instrument, and I can write like really good lyrics, and that's a really good form of like me expressing myself in a creative way, which I couldn't have done with prose. So someone might come to that workshop and be able to find that out about themselves, and I think that's really cool.
And it's making it more and more accessible for everyone to experience.
Yeah.
And moving on to a bit about your role as an accessibility coordinator, what do you think? Do you think COVID has had an impact on accessibility and inclusion at all, and the way we perceive it?
Do you mean within like a festivals and event context specifically, or just at all?
Well, we'd be speaking from your experience. So yeah, festivals and events would be a good thing to look at.
Right. So with festivals and events, God, I could go on for hours about this, because I've facilitated like quite a few events and conferences and stuff during COVID, and the what's the word? The fact that this is all online now, or will be like hybrid in the future, for example, means that so many people are just able to attend by virtue of it being online, so that people can attend internationally, and a lot of people who get left out are like disabled people who cannot leave their home, for example, or don't have the energy to like travel a long distance or something like that. And it's really important to me that the Wayward Festival is free, because when people are thinking about spending money, one of the last things they're going to go to are like cultural events, especially if they don't know anything about it, or aren't sure about like if it's for them, or if they're going to have fun at it or something. So the fact that you can attend the Wayward Festival from your home for free is really important, and I hope it will bring a lot of people into enjoying the arts more, or like accessing the arts in the way that they want, or realizing they can access the arts in a way that they didn't previously know about. And yeah, and I think that's been the most what's the word, like obvious consequence of events being online. And then it's quite important that we look further into accessibility, like as it's usually like known about. So accessibility for disabled people, such as like captioning, BSL, stuff like that. I don't know if this is true, but from my experience, I think a lot of things online have BSL interpreters, and more so than in person. And I wonder if that's because people know like they can hire BSL interpreters and they don't have to like travel far to be able to interpret. And like this is really something that we need to keep in mind. And I've been really proud of what I've been involved in that has involved BSL interpreters and also captioners. The need for captions on platforms like Zoom is immense, especially like with concentration fatigue and Zoom fatigue, especially if you are disabled. And it's made me think a lot more about captions like in person, which aren't unheard of, but very like scarce. So you kind of like have a screen beside a person at an in-person event, and captions would be running along there. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be looking into for in-person events that I run in the future.
Okay, so in future you'd like some of the things that, because I know like you were saying, COVID has sort of revealed how possible it is to make events more inclusive, and you're hoping for the future these will be continued on. And do you think there's more steps that can be taken to increase inclusion in the arts specifically, and events?
Yeah, so again, I could go on about this for hours, but I'm personally not really sure how to accurately convey the message to everybody that like the arts are for them, and most of that is because people, when they think of the arts, they might be like, okay, dance, drama, poetry, prose, that's it, and they won't know that there are like some cool art installations about games, or like gaming as an art form, or something like that. So like there's just so much to know about art, and so many like different sections that a lot of people don't know about, and I'm sure if they are given the chance and the information to learn about that, they will find something that's for them.
Right, brilliant. Thank you very much. And just as a wee final thing, for people wanting to see these events, where should they go online to access them?
So they should go to, let me check I've got this correct, www.waywordfestival.com. So that's WAYWORD festival.com.
Brilliant. And just in case there's anything, are there any future steps for Wayward that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but like that hadn't happened last year, so it's definitely going to be carrying on into the future. I'm really excited to see what an in-person Wayward looks like, since it was like only revivified last year. But I'm just hoping that it will get. I'm just hoping that we can delve even deeper into the idea of unconventional forms of expression, or like looking into different forms of art and how people can interact with them. And I'm just super excited.
Brilliant. I'm definitely excited to see what comes of it. And thank you again so much for joining us here today. And for those of you at home, I've been Hamish Grays, has been Beatrix Livesay-Stephens, and hopefully I'd encourage you to check out the WayWord Festival if any of these events seem interesting to you. And don't forget, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.